So this is the Brute. This is a solid acrylic cut down, and this is our newest call out for 2018. People are constantly asking me what's the difference between the Brute and the original, or the Brute and the 45. And so we want to put together a little video here and just kind of show you some of the differences, and I want to tell you some of the thought that went into the design behind this call. So the first thing I want to tell you about is the tone board. This is the same tone board contour as our original cut. The original cut is a keyhole cut down. This call is basically a direct reproduction of my version of an Olt cut down. So this is a tone board that started as an old PS Olt D2. The end of the tone board and the contour of the tone board has been modified with sandpaper and a bastard file. And this call has a keyhole insert exhaust. So the tone channel from the top of the tone board to the exhaust is a square trough, and it has a keyhole exhaust. That gives a cut down a lot of its sound, a lot of its rattle, and a lot of its rasp. So when we set out to build an acrylic cut down, because this is molded, in order to get this keyhole shape, you have to mold the call and have an insert pin that actually makes this square trough from top to bottom. And that's really hard to machine. So when we set out to make an acrylic cut down, we had to figure out how to get the holes and the bore from the top of the tone board to the exhaust big enough to get the volume through it. But one of the things that I wanted to build into the Brute was enough back pressure so that on the bottom end, most callers could get quiet. A lot of people that try to learn how to blow a cut down do fine on the top end, and they learn how to make those barky notes, but they struggle on the bottom end because it's a thicker reed and it's a longer reed and it's a longer tone board, and the exhaust on the insert is really big. So when we set out to make the Brute, this acrylic cut down, we had two obstacles to overcome first. The first was, how do we design the bore in such a way with round drill bits that we mimic the sound of the keyhole inserts. Once we got past that, the next thing that I wanted to build into this call, like I said, was a little more back pressure. And so what we've developed is a bore system that's unique. This is not a copy of anybody else's acrylic cut downs. This is our own design, but it's a little bit bigger hole, and we've created a little bit of back pressure right under the Cork Tab. And what that does is it gives the call a little more control on the bottom end. So basically, from a 100,000 foot view, the Brute is an acrylic version of our original cut with a little bit more control. So that's kind of the design behind the tone board and how it's set up. The second thing that you'll notice about the Brute that's different from the original cut down is the barrel is a little bit shorter. It's a ½ inch shorter, and that gives the call a little added control as well. It's a little bit more responsive because the chamber that you got to put air into is a little bit shorter. Instead of being a full 3 inches, this is a little over 2.5 inches. And so you've got a shorter barrel paired with a little more back pressure built up under the Cork Tab. Gives this call a lot of control. The next thing, I guess, would be the material. This call is designed and built out of solid acrylic, and it's machined on a CNC lathe and a mill. And the density in the material and the sound qualities that acrylic gives is just a little bit superior, in my opinion, to a molded resin. We have built this call with a 14 mil reed. If you're looking for replacement reeds on our website, these are going to be called Olt style reeds, and these are the 14 mils. We sell 10 mil reeds and we sell 14 mils, but the 14 mils are going to be a little bit thicker, they're going to be a little bit louder, a little barkier, and they're going to give you the performance that you're looking for in a cut down. So if you want replacement reeds for the Brute, they're going to be the 14 mil Olt style reeds on our website. Cut downs, keyhole cut downs, like an Olt uses a 1/4 inch thick cork, and this is a gasket material that we buy and cut to the right size. But if you'll notice, the height of this Cork Tab is really short. So when we set out to build the Brute, I wanted to put a taller Cork Tab in it but still have a long tone board. And so what we've done is we've built this Cork Tab to be slightly thinner. This is a 3/16 Cork Tab, similar to what you would find in a traditional Arkansas style J-frame. That allows us to buy real cork that's of genuine quality, has a lot of elasticity so that when it gets wet it swells and gives the call a better sound, but where it also it also fits that slot nicely. So what we've designed here is a call that has a taller cork, just like a J-frame, and that taller cork allows the call to hold the reed in place better. So I think that's a superior design in this call versus the old keyhole style calls, is a taller cork. The next thing that I'd point out that I'm real proud of is we put an O-ring on this call. And a lot of people ask me why we put an O-ring on this insert instead of a threaded insert. And I have no problem with a threaded design. It's pretty intelligent design. But the reason that I used an O-ring instead of the threaded is because to put threads on the outside diameter of the tone board right here, you have to diminish the size of the bore. You have to reduce the size of the hole basically that runs from the tip here to the tail. And when you do that, that reduces the amount of air that can come out the end of the call and therefore reduces the amount of volume. So while a threaded call gives you a lot of traction when you put the insert into the barrel and keeps it secure there, it diminishes the sound quality, in my opinion, and the overall volume. So what I did was we have built an insert that's machined very precisely so that it fits whether you've got an O-ring on it or not. So this is an insert that doesn't have an O-ring, and what you'll see is that this is a very snug fit. It's not overly tight and it's not loose. It's not going to fall out. So if your O-ring breaks, you're still going to be okay during that morning hunt. But that's a very precise fit. So when you put an O-ring on it, you get an even tighter fit that stays. All right. The reason that we did that is so that you can wear this on your lanyard like some folks want to with just one drop. But a lot of folks also like to put a drop on their insert, and one problem that folks have always had with a cut down is that it's a smooth cylinder. It's not got a dip in it. It's not got a lanyard groove. So you got a couple options. You can turn the lanyard groove here, but the problem with that is that this is not much real estate to put your hand on. So the way we designed this insert is with a little bit of a flare both on both ends, and that way you can still put a lanyard drop on your exhaust or on your insert. But when you go to operate this call, you can move that lanyard groove around wherever you need it to so that it's comfortable for your hand. Some people like it pushed up a little bit further. Some people like it pushed down a little bit towards the bottom. But either way, you've got a lanyard drop that's going to hold that insert because it's flared on both ends. It's not going to come off without, the way your lanyard drop is designed, it's going to stay on there. So instead of picking one spot and putting a lanyard groove in it where it's always in your way, we've designed it such that you can move that around wherever you need to. You'll also notice that the barrel itself has that same swoop in it, that same flare. And the reason I did that is because some folks on the fat end of a cut down barrel don't really like having that knot in your lanyard drop. So I designed that flare such that you can move your lanyard drop down here, and while that looks a little bit silly on your call, it's awfully comfortable to blow and to hold your call that way. That keeps the knot on your lanyard drop away from your mouth. It's not rubbing your lip when you're blowing, but you've got two drops now on your lanyard where you can hold your cut down. So that's pretty much it. That's most of the features that we put on this call. I'm really proud of this call. I really, really like the way that it sounds. I think you will too. The added back pressure allows guys that have struggled with a keyhole cut down to be able to operate this call, but it doesn't add so much back pressure to it that a guy who's accustomed to blowing a keyhole will not like blowing this call. So this is what I would call a very easy blowing cut down. It's very operator friendly. It's got a ton of range from top to bottom, and it's been a very popular seller in the month of August this year, and I hope that you'll get your hands on one. So this is the Brute.
Kill him!